Hi guys, this is Locke. In this video, I'm going to be talking all about potential, how it relates to the codex, and where to farm it from the dungeons, and the strategy for farming it from the dungeons. So to start with, there's two different ways to invest potential. The first way is kind of like what I've done, where I've invested almost everything, well, not everything, but most of it, into one character, which is Rachel. But there's another way to invest it as well. So to actually talk about potential, I'm actually going to refer to the codex. And to do that, first of all, you want to know what the benefit is of both ways, right? So if you go to the heroes, so I'm looking at Rachel, for example, and you click on the second magnifying glass under proficiency level, you click on this one, it actually shows you how potential relates to the codex. So first of all, anything in the codex relates to everyone. So even if I upgrade the potential of Rachel, the amount that she gets from the codex is not just for her, but for everybody in the party. So for example, right here you can see from the potential she's getting plus 16 attack. That plus 16 attack is for everyone in my entire party, not just for Rachel. So it also says that you get plus 4 attack every 9 levels. So one way of investing potential is to give everybody 9 levels, like everyone in my party 9 levels of potential, and everybody in my party will benefit from like some small amount of potential. So for example, in some Discord servers and in some Reddit guides, it talks about investing 666 into potential, because that basically means that you get 18 levels of potential, which, as I said before, it gives you a small amount of buff to everybody in your party. Whereas if you invest a lot into one unit like this, that unit is going to get a high amount of stats, but everyone else doesn't really benefit as much from it, right? Because like I think in total she has what, 25? Let me just double check here. In total she is giving 16 attack to everybody, right? But that 16 could have been spread more evenly instead of going all the way to 15. But anyway, so the reason I went about it this way is because I actually found this weapon in the store, and it was the first legendary weapon. I mean, the set isn't great, but it's still a huge boost of attack. So I spent all my enhancement stones on this particular weapon, and I had, a very high attack number. So I've decided to put this attack number like this from the weapon with a very high attack number from her potential, to basically, have a very strong unit that takes care of all DPS. If I combine this with Valder, which is the pet, um, where is he now? Yeah, if I combine it with this skill, this basically means allies are immune to damage for 2 seconds. So I can use this to, in place of a suppression character for most of the story, and up to up to tier 7 in the raids. So I don't need to bring a suppression hero for the raids until tier 6, and definitely for the story modes, because the bosses only use the suppression skill once in story up to hard. So I used this skill and Rachel as my main DPS, and all I would need to bring is a healer and one resistance hero. So I kind of used that setup for most of the story. So that's the way I went with it, and I personally like having, seeing big numbers, having one unit do a ton of damage. So that's the reason I went with potential like that. So for example, if you look at like my healers and like they haven't. So secondly, after I raised Rachel, I next started to invest in defense for Karen, because if she dies, the party kind of dies. So I really need her to be, defensive. So and it doesn't mean that I spent everything into Rachel. I actually had to first make sure that nobody in my unit dies from one hit. So for example, if I'm fighting Phasma, who targets the back line, and Karen keeps getting one shot by him, then I have to make sure that I invest some soul stones. Sorry, it's not soul stones. Some potential into Karen to make sure she survives one hit. So I'm not spending 100% of my potential into Rachel, but I spent like maybe 80% of it. Now I have obviously leftover because I already maxed it out, and I'm starting to invest in other units. But at the start, that's what I did. I put everything into Rachel, not everything, but like 80% of resources into Rachel, because I really wanted her to do her role well, and I used her everywhere. Like I used her as the DPS throughout like all of story. I didn't really switch her out for anyone else because I was able to do that because I have the pet that I talked about, and you might not be in that situation. So maybe for you it makes sense to actually spread out potential to everybody so that everyone benefits from that codex buff. Or you might maybe invest 50% to one unit instead of like 80 like I did, right? So it really, you have to decide what makes sense for you. You have to look at the gear you have. Maybe you don't have any legendary weapons, you only have legendary armor. So, you have to come up with a different strategy. I'm here to just provide you the information to tell you how it all relates. And then you have to kind of use that to make your own decision. But if you need some particular help with, if you want to say, hey, this is my circumstances, this is what I have, and you write it for me and ask me for my opinion, I'll be more than happy to give you my opinion. But right now in this video, I'm just kind of talking overall how it all relates, how you can see potential, how you can see the amount that you get from codex. In my opinion, like in the very beginning, it's not a lot. Like 4 attack for every 9 levels. I mean, even if you go to level 18, that is so like 666, right? So you would get 8 attack from Rachel for everybody. I don't think that's a lot, right? Even if you invested in like, say, I don't know, 10 units, that's 80 attack. I mean, I guess I think codex buffs become more important, the later you go on in the game. And then, when you get to end game and you want to level up everyone and get their potential raise for everybody, then I think it makes sense to go 666 or 333. So that's, it's 9 and then 18 and so on. I think at the very beginning, investing it like such a wide resource like that across everyone, I don't think makes as much sense. But that's my personal opinion. I think it makes more sense to do it this way, but I also mentioned that, I have this weapon which helps me to take advantage of the very high attack value for Rachel. So, so those are I think the two styles of investing in potential. You can, kind of spread it out amongst your units so that everybody benefits from the codex buff, or you can invest, kind of focus it more on core units. I think a good starting point is to make sure whatever content you're doing, make sure that nobody in your team can get one shot. If they do, then invest some potential in the units that are getting one shot into their health and their defense. And whatever is left over, invest in the core unit of your team. And the core unit might not actually be a DPS unit. It might be, maybe it might be Karen, because maybe you don't have Valder, so you have to rotate your DPS. Like, for example, Gigantus, you might have to use Len for your DPS because she has the suppression. So in that case, maybe Karen is your core unit, and you really want her to, not die. And so maybe you're investing a lot into her defense. Like maybe you're not going into an offensive potential like I did. Maybe you're going into a defensive potential. So it really depends on what makes sense for you. That's how you should look at it. Now, next I'm going to talk about the dungeon. So the Elixir Refinery is where you're going to get potential from, like where you're going to get that from. And there are a couple things to note about the stage. Generally speaking, you always want to go to the last stage, right? Because the reward from the D tier is the same as the reward from the previous stage of the S tier. But for this particular stage, there are 2 key differences than most other stages. So the first thing is, if you are starting out and you're not that high, like maybe you can only go up to tier 7 or something. If you can only go up to tier 7, the best place to get common, what is it, like the common elixirs is stage 5, because you can get up to 305 common elixirs and then 183 greater elixirs with an S tier, right? But if you go to the other ones, you don't get the common tiers anymore. You can actually exchange the greater and rare ones to common, but it will be exchanged at a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you sum up all the greater tiers and rare tiers and convert them to the common tiers here, you're actually getting less than at the tier 5. So if you really need to farm common tiers and you're not yet able to do tier 8, then tier 5 is where you should be going to farm common tiers. But once you're able to go to tier 8, if you sum up all the rewards that you get from tier 8, that is the highest number. So 385 greater tiers and 223 rare elixirs. If you convert all of these to common, this number is the highest in all of these stages. So this is the one that you want to be farming for if you want to go for common. if you want to go for yeah, actually, if you want to go for common or greater elixirs, this is the stage to go for, tier 8. If you want to farm for the rare elixirs, then you would go to tier 10. But for most cases, I mean, you would probably be farming tier 8 until you've absolutely no need of greater elixirs anymore. Or if you're trying to, like, in my case, get that unit up to tier potential 10, where you really want a lot of rare elixirs, then you might do tier 10. But in most cases, you would be doing tier 8. Now, I'm going to do a run of tier 8, and this is the units that I'm using up there is the strategy that I used. And I'm going to show you how to do it. You can actually minimize the damage you take, except for your two DPS heroes. You can actually just, sorry, not DPS, except for your two melee heroes. You can actually even switch strategy to use just one melee hero. But I've invested everything into Rachel, and so if I don't use Rachel, I'm actually going to do a lot less damage. So I'm going to show you with the setup that I have. And also, if you're having trouble using this setup, you can switch out Luki for another healer as well. Now I'm going to show you, and when I'm showing you, I'm obviously going to have the attack, defense, and HP buff. That is not going to be there for you if you haven't done this stage yet. But I can't turn off the buff, so I have to use it. But hopefully you at least see the strategy that I'm using, and you can apply it for you when you're fighting. So I'm going to go into here and show you what I'm going to do. So the first thing I want to do when this starts is turn off everybody follow. So I'm going to do that and go to Luki, and I'm going to move Luki here because he is the weakest on my team. So I'm going to move him here to make sure that he doesn't get hit, and I'm going to wait for that. And once this is here, I'm going to move my tank one direction and the other melee hero in the other direction. And now my two range units don't take any damage at all. They're in both sides. And I'm basically going to repeat this strategy where the tank is on one side and the other melee hero is the exact opposite side, so that they don't take so much damage. I mean, I have to fight 4 of these like mini bosses, right? So for each of those, I'm going to use exactly what I just said. So the tank is going to be on one side. I'm going to go to Rachel and put her at the exact opposite corner. These two will be the farthest they can from the boss, and they won't be taking too much damage. The third and fourth boss has a circular AoE, and Luki and Shay might take some damage from those two, but if they're taking too much damage, then you might have to press this Control All and move everybody back. But if they're taking damage but not really dying, and you can heal through it, and with the pet skill you can heal through it, then this is fine, right? So it really depends on where you are, how much damage you can take, but this is a very easy strategy. You also have to make sure that Rachel also doesn't die from the boss as well, especially from the third and fourth boss, which does this kind of circular AoE. If you find that Rachel or whatever other melee hero you're using is dying a lot, then you might want to and I have to make sure that I move that out of the way. So I should actually move my tank here, so that if he uses that skill again, he is kind of that skill is going to be aimed towards that corner. It seems like I actually don't have enough DPS to finish this, but that's okay. I mean, this is the strategy. I intentionally lowered my some of the attack on my units. I don't know if I can finish. I have a minute to finish one more of these bosses. Maybe I'll finish it, maybe I won't. I don't know. But if I find that one of my units is taking too much damage, especially from that circular AoE, I move them back a bit. If I find that it's just taking way too much damage and I can't do anything about it, I would switch Luki with a second healer like Karen or Serena. But this is the strategy. I mean, placing it this way, only the tank is taking a ton of damage. And I can even use a more DPS-oriented tank like Gui. I don't know how to say his full name, but that fire resist hero. He has more attack skills than Rudy. So it really depends. But yeah, this is strategy, and I hope it helps, and I hope I can actually do this. And yeah, I did. Perfect. So yeah, my Rachel is like my team, really, for as far as DPS is concerned. I did intentionally lower the CP that I'm showing you, because I didn't want to do it with like 100k CP, because then it's like very unrelatable. Most people don't have that, and if I'm just like completely steamrolling the content, I can't really do a guide and show you, right? So that's why I intentionally lowered it. I actually didn't know if I would be able to finish it with the 86k CP or not, but with the with the 35% buff, I was able to do it. So anyway, I that's it for the guide. I hope that helped. If you have other questions, you know, maybe like maybe you want to explain your situation, you know, what your team is, you know. I'll probably ask you some questions, like I'll ask you like what kind of legendary gears do you have, where are you in the story and things like that. And then if you have specific questions about how I should go, you know, should I invest everything into one, should I invest into like four, should I invest into my whole team, I can help you if you have questions like that. There's also a Discord. I will put the Discord link in my description. So there's a bunch of people there that are giving a lot of helpful advice. I'm also there to give advice. So if you have other questions and want to talk about it in detail, join the Discord and you know, message me or just message the help advice thread, and I'm sure somebody will be able to help you out with this. So that's it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this guide and this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good day.